Do you think that silver and gold is accepted as money because they're rare? Well, you are wrong, and let's find out. So let's get it out of the way. I want to point out that rarity does not equal money. Silver is not money because it is rare. There are much rarer elements out there, and they're stable, somewhat stable, but we don't use them. And one of these elements is called radium. Radium is so rare that it takes 7 tons of uranium to produce a single gram of radium. And only a few ounces are produced every year. So why is it not used anymore? We don't use radium anymore because radium is radioactive. We did use radium when it was first discovered. We used it in luminescent materials and for Rolex watches. And I suggest you look up something called the Radium Girls when I was doing my research. Radium Girls were workers at the Rolex factory who painted dials in radium. And they used radium to make the dials glow in the dark. So you could dive and have a glow in the dark watch and you can read the time at night. They stopped using radiums because they found sooner or later that these young women were dying very early. And when they dug up their bodies never decomposed and they glowed in the dark. So, yeah, that's why we don't use radium. It kills you, it's radioactive, it's very dangerous, but it is rarer than silver. So we can establish that it's not just because something is rare, it gets to be a monetary metal, sorry about that. It has to have certain physical properties that make it money. So what are those properties? Well, first of all, it can't be a gas. It can't be a liquid. It has to not be radioactive. It has to be not explosive or reactive. It has to be not poisonous. It has to resist corrosion. It has to resist wear and tear. It has to be not too soft or brittle. You don't want your money to, like, the second you hold it, it deforms into putty, or you drop it and then it shatters into a million pieces. It has to be relatively easy to work with, right? When mankind was first developing civilization, they needed something that they could work with, which excluded some certain metals that have too high melting points. You can't easily melt tungsten. It has an extremely high melting point. So, if we look at the periodic table, we can already eliminate all of the gases and liquids. And here we have hydrogen, that's gone. We can eliminate a lot of these noble gases. We can eliminate a lot of these items. That's fluorine, chlorine, that's both a gas and it will kill you. Bromine will also kill you. You have oxygen, all of these items, right, metals. You have some metals. Most of these metals either are too soft or brittle, or they corrode. And most of on this side, they are also too brittle and soft or soft. The metals who are further down the line, right, these metals, they tend to be all radioactive. These metals, radium here, radioactive, which leaves pretty much only this area. So these 7 metals that fulfill these physical properties. That means that they resist corrosion pretty well. They resist wear and tear pretty well. They're neither too soft nor brittle. They're easy to work with. And they don't explode. They won't kill you, pretty much. They won't kill you if you handle them. Out of these metals, right, you still have some that have similar properties, but these metals are the same version as these pretty much. But I think this is called rhodium, and then this is called dartinium or something like that. Anyways, I have here the dates that they were discovered, and these metals were discovered in the Manhattan Project after they blew up a nuclear bomb. So unless you plan on blowing up some nuclear bombs, you're not going to find these type of metals, and they're radioactive and they're unstable. So these 7 metals, as you can see here, this group, especially this group, the copper, silver, gold, zinc, and also mercury. Mercury is not used because it's a liquid and it's toxic. This group of metals was discovered in antiquity. These were the first sort of group of, I would say, monetary metals we discovered. And these metals, out of these 7, even some of the later ones, we can see in history that these metals were used as monetary metals. And you're like, yeah, but copper, nickel, and zinc, they're not stores of value. Yes, they are, but here's the next part. For something to be a monetary value, we're not talking about how much they're going to store in value. We're talking about whether they can be a monetary value. That is purely something that depends on their physical property. And all 7 of these metals have that physical property. What the rarity of something determines is not whether it can be a monetary metal or not. The rarity of a monetary metal determines, relative to other monetary metals, its denomination. So nickel, copper, and zinc have historically been used as money. You go through any time period, nickel, copper, and zinc, you always had coinage out of these. It would always be a mixture of these for some lower denomination coins, right? For example, copper zinc pennies or copper nickel pennies, these would be quite common. Then you would move on to what I would call medium denominations, depending on time and depending on how much the money was debased. But then you would have different weights of silver and copper. And because silver is relatively rare compared to copper and nickel, it would have a greater value in terms of the coin or the weight it represented. So for example, this coin from 1962, this is still a silver Swiss coin, yes. This coin is silver, and it contains silver and copper. And these coins, the silver coins, went up to the 5 Swiss franc coin because up to that weight, it was practical to have coinage made out of silver to represent that value. And then we move on to the even rarer ones, for example, such as gold, which is much rarer. And then you would have gold coins, right, to represent higher values. This was the 20 Swiss franc gold coin, and it is 5.8 grams. Of course, today it is not 20 Swiss francs anymore. This is much more expensive because the gold weight is more because we have debased fiat currency. But at the time, this was 20 Swiss francs worth of gold in this coin due to its monetary metal weight and value. To conclude, I want to say that silver is not a store of value because it is just rare. It is a store of value, just like gold, just like some of these other ones. I'm not talking so much about platinum because platinum is a relatively modern monetary metal, so is palladium. These two have very high melting temperatures. But the original monetary metals have their value, are valuable because of their physical properties, not just because of their rarity. And because of their unique physical properties amongst all of the elements in existence, they represent value, a store of value. And how much of a store of value, that part is determined by its rarity relative to other monetary value, the monetary metals, such as the ratio between silver and gold, typically is used to determine how much, whether your silver is overpriced or underpriced, or the ratio of platinum to gold, palladium to gold. These things are used to determine their relative value to each other. So remember, silver is only money, firstly, because of its monetary metal physical attributes, and second because of its rarity. So, what does that tell you? Well, it tells you that pretty much it doesn't matter how much silver there is out there, as long as it's one of the only metals that has this and the 7 others that has the monetary metal properties, it will always have value. So now you know. If you like this content, feel free to subscribe and like. If you want to chat or talk, feel free to write a comment. I'll always reply within the day or 2 days. I've been a bit busy with work recently, so I've been slow on the responses, but I'll get back to you. And yeah, click the like button, click the notification button, and thank you very much for watching.